Hello, and welcome to the YouTube channel Bean Steamers. Today we're going to talk about air travel, and this is such a large chapter that we're going to split it down into two sections. We'll have half of it this Friday and the remaining half next Friday. So before we begin, as always, I'd like you to welcome Harold the baby Bigfoot and Sammy the stuffed hippopotamus with the golden Mickey Mouse ears over my right shoulder. Well, as I said, today is air travel. Or we could subtitle it, Am I Still a Terrorist If I Just Blow Up the Airport and Nobody Gets Hurt? Well, at some point in time, we've all fantasized what we would do if we were extremely rich, if money weren't a problem, ever. Now, some of us would buy outlandish mansions with 24-karat gold faucets and toilets. Some would collect exotic automobiles or buy huge diamonds. Not me. I'd buy a private jet. I think like a Beechcraft Premier would look real good. It has a high operational ceiling, a low operational cost per hour. It comfortably seats 6 people, and the FAA has cleared it for just one pilot. So I could fly it by myself no matter where I wanted to go. And I'd spend whatever it took to learn how to fly it, and I would never set foot inside an airport for a commercial flight again in my life. Our society is based on free capitalism, or maybe it's relatively free capitalism, depending on which conspiracy theorist you're following on a particular day. For the most part, this encourages those who wish to dive into the business world with what they feel is a unique idea to see if they can make a fortune providing some type of service or product to patrons whom they assume will be beating each other up senseless for the privilege of buying whatever it is that they have to offer. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time, it works for a while. Now, at the bottom of the capitalistic food barrel, usually where the sludge accumulates, is a kind of company who provides you with something that they think you've got to have, or maybe you do have to have it, and they take advantage of that by continuing to make it more intolerable each year by raising the prices several times during the course of a calendar year. They know they've got you, and they're going to squeeze every shekel that they can out of you, providing you with their goods. And to a certain extent, the automobile manufacturers are like that. They make the cars cheaper and cheaper while belching this great sounding story about how safe their car is. And next year, it's going to have to cost just a little bit more. Now, one of the best examples of these greed merchants at work, however, is in the construction business. Construction workers, whether they do good work or bad work, use highly specialized tools that only several companies make. Each year, they raise the price and they figure out a way to make the tool wear out a little bit faster than the last one you bought. Not only are these tools made cheaper, but even the materials used to make the product are not clearly as good as they were several years ago. Some manufacturers even came out with what they call an upgraded or premium product using terms like extra firm or sag resistant. The reality of this is that they made it just like they did 15 years ago, and they're not now charging you more for it. These companies have got you caught between a proverbial rock and a hard place. You've got to work. You need their product in order to work. They got you, and they know they got you. This is what has happened to the air carriers almost exclusively. They know they got you. You've got to get from point A to point B, and you have to fly. The airlines don't care about what your comfort is or what your satisfaction is. They might say that they do, but they don't. What they do care about is your safety. Crashed airplanes don't make money, but they can't care about you too. Look at the way they treat everybody. They care about filling the airplane up. And you're inconvenienced by their attitude? So what? That's the way it goes. For instance, when you make a reservation, you assume you're going to be on the flight that you wanted, which is not always so. due to any number of things, the greatest of which is poor sales or a particular flight on that day that they just can't fill up the airplane, you may be rerouted. Now, this direct flight that you wanted on that particular day may now be a flight with one or maybe two layovers. That the same length of the layover is the same time that your direct flight was. It gets you to your destination hours later than what you originally wanted. Out of the goodness of their hearts, the airlines are willing to allow you to travel this extra distance, throwing your schedule off by hours for the same ticket cost as the direct flight. This is human quality of kindness at its peak level. If an apathetic attitude like this rubbed off on the passengers as well, we wouldn't be allowed to fly on the plane because we'd be branded as difficult. Well, your trouble starts when you step up to the ticketing agent to check in for your flight. It says on the ticket to get there 2 hours before the departure of any domestic flight in the United States. You've got no idea how long the line is going to be, and the line at the check-in is only the first of three lines that you're going to be in before the plane actually is airborne. You had better be there 3 hours before the flight, or you're flirting with disaster. No matter how many check-in lines any particular airline has, they always move slow. Get used to it. Getting there 3 hours before the scheduled departure buys a little bit of time. Next stop is the security check. Whose rules you play by depends on which airport you happen to be in at the time. The security people will tell you that every airport security check is consistent with every other airport in the country, but that's not really the case. In some, they want your shoes, belt, and jewelry off before you step through the scanner. Others want some of it off, some of them want none of it off. In a Wichita, Kansas airport a while back, I actually made it through security with a fingernail clipper in my carry-on. If I'd have tried to do that at LAX, I'd be doing time in San Quentin right now. A long time ago, I always wondered if you had a steel plate in your head, would you have to bring an x-ray to prove it was there every time you flew? Well, I kind of got that question answered a few years ago when I had a knee replaced, and several weeks after the surgery, received an ID card from the manufacturer of the bionic knee with my name, date of surgery, the performing doctor's name, and which knee was now phony. The instructions said to take it with me whenever I flew on a plane. As further proof that not all security check-ins are alike, I took it on my most recent flight and I told the agent that I had a metal knee. I dutifully said, "Do you need to see my knee replacement card?" His reply was, "Move along." Not a yes or a no, just move along. Airport security agents and Border Patrol guards have no sense of humor. I'll save my story about my run-in with the Border Patrol down in southern Arizona for another time. Now, on to the gate that you're going to be boarding from. This is where you find out two very important things. First of all, the people that you'll be traveling with. And secondly, what they're bringing with them. I first flew on an airplane when I was 17 years old. My father and I took an Eastern Airlines flight from Cincinnati to Chicago and then hopped a shuttle from there to Milwaukee to attend a 2-day orientation at a college that I was going to start attending in the fall. The night before the flight, my father told me that I had to wear a sport coat and a tie on the plane because this is the way that people dressed when they flew. Not today, not by a long shot, except for the occasional businessman who stands out pretty clearly and mostly is on very early or very late flights. The vast majority of people getting on an airplane could pass for homeless. The accepted style of dress in the winter for men is dirty old sweatpants or blue jeans, a t-shirt under a torn flannel shirt, gym shoes or work boots, and a backwards baseball cap. For women, the air travel wardrobe consists of stretch pants that are balled up on the thighs and the seat, and a t-shirt that has a sparkly design such as a unicorn on the front. This is accessorized by a purse that is half the size of an army duffel bag with big wooden handles and brightly colored plastic hair braids with matching bracelets. In the summer, the style for men changes to baggy shorts that hang way below the knee, tank tops with sandals, and a backwards baseball cap. The summer couture for women, however, is the same as it is in the winter. You may briefly even think that they saved up their panhandling money to take a few weeks off in Hawaii. And the way that they look is only part of it, because what they're carrying with them is just as bad. Carry-on luggage for this growing subculture has a carefree, anything goes attitude, throwing caution to the wind and disregarding the old established axioms such as the purse must match the shoes. A quick survey of the gates at the terminal will produce people carrying brown paper grocery bags or black plastic garbage bags with twisty seals. Of course, the airline's dirty little secret is how much luggage they lose. The fact that they lose the luggage is undisputed. The secret they harbor is how much they actually lost, misplaced, or even got stolen. Because of this, people bring a small suitcase that would not fit into the overhead bin if it were a 16th of an inch bigger. With the addition of their regular carry-on, it means the in-cabbage storage units are packed to the gills. Most airlines have begun boarding the flight on what they call a zone system, usually numbered zones up to 9. The zone that you are about to board in is printed on your boarding pass. If your zone is above 4, the odds on you finding a storage place in the overhead bin for your carry-on is slim to none. And if it's a night flight, the pillows and blankets are gone by zone 3, and the fun has just begun. You board the plane, you stand in the aisle for eternity while all the people in front of you look for overhead storage space that is non-existent. Then you finally find your seat and gain immediate realization that you are sitting next to one of these pseudo-homeless people who has A, been drinking beer or whiskey or both in the airport lounge since noon, B, not taken a shower since last Tuesday, or C, so enamored with himself that he is going to talk non-stop during your flight. If you didn't behave yourself last week, it could be all three. Now, it should be noted that a variation on C is sitting next to a parent of a young child who fidgets and or cries for the whole flight. The child only does this because they know that they're the ones in charge. The parent will do nothing to stop them from bothering you, and in fact, to probably learn to tune it out by now. So, you finally find your seat on the aircraft, realizing that the engineers for the airlines designed the specs for the plane manufacturer, overcame the impossible, and actually figured out a way to stuff 10 tons of human flesh into an 8-ton capacity passenger cabin. The only people who have even a remote chance of being comfortable in one of these things would be someone who's less than 5 feet tall and is non-claustrophobic. The baggage compartment has more room than you do. In fact, if you don't see a particular flight attendant for any length of time, they're probably down in the baggage compartment stretching out. So the flight begins. You taxi in a takeoff position, you wait around for a while, and you roar down the one-way until you become airborne. This is the point of no return, the moment of commitment, because from this instant onward, until the plane touches down, they got you. They can do anything they want, they can treat you any way they wish, and there's nothing you can do about it. You are, in effect, their prisoner, a slave to their nefarious desires. Soon after takeoff, a video is played on safety procedures aboard the plane while it's in flight. What to do if the oxygen masks come down or the power goes out on the plane. Now, no passenger aboard cares about these things and would rather spend his time formulating a plan on how to rid themselves of the slob sitting next to them. Of course, if the slob sitting next to them falls into the type C category, he's going to talk all the way through the whole video anyway, and you don't have a chance to know what you're going to have to do to save your life if the cabin loses pressure and the oxygen mask falls in your face. In case you're wondering, the video says you should secure your own mask and then help the person next to you. A more likely scenario is that you secure your own mask and the slob next to you is on his own. This would, it should be noted, solve all the problems that this person is causing. With your oxygen mask on, you can neither smell his breath or, due to the lack of oxygen on his part, he can't at that moment speak. For the most part, though, you are never spared these things and you must suffer for the entire flight time. Now the free beverage and snack service begins. Yippee! A flight attendant pushes a cart that is 1/32nd of an inch narrower than the aisle down the length of the cabin, which means that plenty of elbows and plenty of hands will get bruised and will give you a choice of drinks that all end up in this small plastic cup. So small, in fact, that only a person who has been stranded in the Gobi Desert for a week could appreciate the volume of the liquid it contains. This refreshing drink will also help you wash down the stale pretzels that are served. If you want something with a little kick to it, it costs you twice as much than you would pay for a drink in just about any bar anywhere else in the free world. After the complimentary beverage service, you had better hunker down for the long haul. If the person next to you is snoring, belching, coughing, or sneezing on you, or emitting some kind of odor that you're sure is going to change the color of your skin or blacken your teeth, it doesn't matter at this point. There is no place to go, nothing you can change, and the airline, except for getting you to your destination alive and in one piece, has fulfilled their obligation to you. It's at this point that you really begin to question your judgment. Is first class really worth it? Did I even need to go on this flight? Would it have been too long a distance to drive? These are questions, of course, that only you can answer. You'll meditate on them for a week or so after the flight, perhaps even making resolutions that you vow you will keep, like only flying for trips of more than 800 miles or so. But in the end, you realize that you can hate anything for a few hours and you'll start the process all over again the very next time that you decide you have to go somewhere. The only thing that would change this order of events is if the flight is long enough in duration that a movie will be shown for your entertainment and pleasure. This begins by one of the flight attendants maneuvering down an aisleway, hawking cheap headset phones for a few bucks. This should come with a disclaimer, one reminiscent of the old Mission Impossible show. If you were born in the 60s, this will sound familiar. It always said at the beginning, this tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds. And this disclaimer should say on the headphones, these headphones will only work correctly one time and then degrade into producing only a garbled cacophony of sound. They used to charge $4 for these things until some marketing genius finally figured out that you can go to any Walmart in the United States and get them for $1.99. Now they're $2. You'd be better off going to Walmart anyway prior to your flight. The quality is a much better grade of cheap. Another question would be, who determines what movies are shown on these planes? Does each airline have a movie czar that sits in some huge office in a $3,000 suit and a silk shirt, smoking a big cigar, never removing their sunglasses, screening all these movies and then screaming to his secretary, "That one's a dog, but the first one killed. Put that one on westbound Oriental flights." Who knows? It is a fact, however, that if we want to go to the movies, it costs us money. The Hollywood movie factory didn't turn out this picture to show it to us for free. It's meant to make a profit, but we have the right to determine if we will spend our money on a certain movie or not. On an airplane, it's a little different. You are, in effect, a captive audience. Even if you don't pay for the set of headphones or didn't bring along a set of headphones with you, you still can't help but looking at the screen, most of the time out of sheer boredom. I recently watched what was termed to be a blockbuster when it was in theaters on a westbound flight that was 3 hours and 45 minutes in length. The flight, not the movie. I had accidentally left my headphones, or I guess the proper term is earbuds, at home, and was not about to pay for a cheap set. I watched the whole movie with no sound, and all I can say is I'm glad I didn't pay to see this dog in a theater as I had been contemplating doing. I didn't need the earbuds to tell me that it was a real stinker. On one recent westbound domestic flight sometime earlier, the movie that was shown could only be described as a film noir science fiction kind of thing. It appealed to a very small portion of the people on board the plane. On the return eastbound flight, the movie, although it enjoyed more success than it should have at the box office, was nothing more than a big production martial arts movie and appealed to even less people than the one on the westbound flight earlier. Even the pseudo-homeless people were more engrossed in their current issues of WWF magazine or some gossip rag with glossy covers that you'd swear is called the National Oink. This makes you wonder, is that the airlines that pay for the privilege of showing a specific movie, or that the producers of that movie pay the airlines to show to captive audiences? If a good guess were placed, the smart money would be on the latter. Finally, mercifully, the plane touches down. What they should do is they should make every aisle on both sides of the airplane an exit door. And as soon as the plane stops at the end of the runway, everybody could open their door and jump down to the tarmac and make a mad dash for the terminal. That is, after all, what the passengers want to do. They don't want to spend one more second on this flying sardine can than they have to. Alas, though, we must all wait. Soon the airplane pulls up to the gate, and the red seatbelt sign goes off with this little ding, which is really meaningless because everyone has had their seatbelt unbuckled from the moment the plane slowed down on the runway. People have a sense about when this plane is going to stop at the gate, and they begin standing in order to deplane about 5 milliseconds before the plane actually stops. Even if you're in the back of the plane, you better be standing when that final ding is heard, like a prize fighter coming to life when the bell signals the beginning of a new round and leaping out of his corner to do battle with his opponent once again. You better be ready to make your claim for the aisle space. If you passively remain seated, ain't nobody gonna let you up. As you leave the plane, feeling like a prison parolee stepping into freedom for the first time in years, you are, in a sense, reborn. And you once again are free to make your own decisions, your own choices, and control your own destiny. Just like a newborn baby, after spending the last several hours in a chair with 5/8 of an inch of legroom, you have to learn to walk again. As you leave the aircraft, the flight attendant and perhaps one of the crew bid you farewell with a phony smile and a half sincere bye bye. Or, a common variation is, thank you for flying Mongo Airlines. What they really want to say is, hurry up and get out of here so we can get to the hotel, change out of these Buster Brown outfits, and hit the bar for our quota of booze for the night. The muttered attempts to respond by the passengers are just as insincere. What they really want to say is, don't waste my time and slow my exit from this tin can down by making me respond to you. What I really want to do is get to a cheap bar where I don't have to pay $6 for half a drink and I try to forget this whole day, at least this whole day so far. Now, the reality of the situation is that you didn't want to be there. And if the truth be made known, the flight crew didn't want you there either. In a perfect world, they would rather fly an empty plane from city to city, and the airlines would have to figure out a way to make money with no passengers and avoid all the hassles. All in a perfect world, of course. Well, this doesn't end your flight. This doesn't end your fun. You still have to go to the baggage terminal, claim your baggage, get to ground transportation, get to a hotel, get to a rental car. Your journey's only about half over. So we're going to pick up on that next week with part 2 of air travel. Until then, please click the little button to subscribe to this particular YouTube channel. We'd sure love to have you there, and we'd sure love to hit the little bell and you get the notifications when a new video is put up. Well, thank you so much for being with us today for part 1 of air travel. We'll see you next Friday.